Dr. Helene, great to connect again. It's the first time the Middle Road is actually highlighting or showcasing specific projects and companies whose mission encompasses the mission and vision of the Middle Road platform. I'm very delighted to promote the Theory of Change certification course and honored to be with Dr. Helene Clark. Dr. Helene Clark, a very warm welcome.
Thank you, Nishant. I'm very pleased and grateful for the opportunity to discuss the certification course with people.
I'll first give a brief description of Dr. Helene Clark. She's the founder and director of Acknowledge and the board chair of the Center for Theory of Change, a global thought leader in enabling social change and impact within the social impact sector. Acknowledge is also the founder of Center of Theory of Change, a nonprofit focusing on outcome-driven intervention-based strategic framework tool called Theory of Change. Theory of Change is a valuable tool to understand the impact of policies, interventions, programs connected to understand the outcomes linked to these measures. Helene, I'm very delighted to chat with you again. And in this short interview, I'll be talking about the work and theory of change certification course.
Yeah, well, it's a course that we're very excited about, and we've had a lot of good response to it. And it helps us stay very up to date, because to keep the curriculum good, we have to make sure we're scanning everything new that comes out. So it's good for the students, it's good for me and the rest of the Acknowledge and Center team as well.
The foremost authority on this subject. And like you rightly said, theory of change is an integral part of our life from both the business and development sector. And it makes a very measurable positive change within the whole global ecosystem. Now, theory of change framework is a key strategic tool within development sector. And tell us how the course works.
Well, the Theory of Change certification course is offered by the Nonprofit Center because the center's mission is really to disseminate and educate people around theory of change. Acknowledge, the social enterprise I direct, does direct work with clients. And we have learned so much over 20 years about how to do things well and what goes wrong and the challenges, that the center has taken that on board and investigated theory of change work from many, many organizations, from HEVOS, the Asia Foundation, all over, to bring the most up-to-date thinking about theory of change to the course. The certification course is the only one of its type, and it certifies from the center that the person has both a basic and advanced knowledge of theory of change. At the level of certification course, someone would be able to do a very deep and responsible level of doing planning and evaluation and creating a theory of change with an organization. We prepare people for their earliest agendas to struggling with problems to creating results frames. So it's very comprehensive. It's 8 modules in structure, and people proceed at their own pace. On average, people take 3 to 6 months to complete it, depending on their workloads at work, but it's a go at your own pace. Every student gets a personal advisor, which is myself or another senior theory of change person that you can be in touch with all the time, can do a Zoom with like this if we need a conversation, can send emails. I'll mention just how it's structured for people so that it's something real. The certification course is structured into 2 sections, basic and advanced. There are 4 basic modules, and those modules are mandatory. Every participant must take those 4. Then there are 4 electives that must be taken out of a range of about 12 that we offer. I'd like to say at some point, a sample of what those electives are. And so the student chooses which 4 electives. Those are more advanced topics, and it depends on how you're going to use theory of change. Some of the advanced topics are using theory of change in international development, using theory of change in social policy and advocacy, using other methods such as online surveys, interviews, Excel, and results frames with theory of change. Very popular one is the difference between theories of change and log frames, logic models, and results frame. Another one is how to create a results frame and a strategic plan from your theory of change. Then there's an elective on facilitation tips for people who are already good. We don't teach you to facilitate. If you facilitate, we'll teach you how to take theory of change on board and be prepared to deal with problems. So there are 8 modules to be taken before completion. Everything is online, so you don't have to wait for anybody to access it. But every module does have an exercise and a quiz. So once you've submitted your exercise and quiz online, it will be graded by your advisor. So you do have to wait for the grade, which is usually a couple of days. And then you move on if you passed. And if it's not quite right, we get back to you and say, it was good, but this definition, you missed it. So we give a lot of feedback, a lot of discussion, and then people proceed through. That's basically how it works. The only other thing I'll say is that the certification course the center offers is $2,000. There is an option for people who don't need to be as in-depthly really good at creating theories of change. It's possible to take just the 4 basic modules for half of the price and half the time. For people who are going to be participants in a theory of change, so they understand what they're doing, or funders who are going to review theories of change but don't need the deep skills to develop on themselves. So there's no certificate if you take the basic course. There's just a letter that you've completed the basic theory of change knowledge course. But the full course with advanced and basic ends with a certificate and being listed on the center website if the person is interested. That's about it, Nishant. That's how it works. So open to any questions about it.
What's interesting is first, you have a very personal approach. This is really good. You have like one-to-one mentorship, I would say. That's a very innovative
one-to-one
approach.
Is very important.
Do you think that has evolved over a period of time? One was that, and other was like, would you maybe speak a bit more about logic frames you talked about?
One of the big questions that people come to us with very often is, how is theory of change different from a logical framework? And so one of the modules in the course goes into that in detail. As a spoiler, I'll tell you that one of the key differences is that the logical framework attempts to show many of the components of the theory of change, inputs, outputs, and a good logical framework will show rationales and explanations. What the logical framework isn't as good at is it doesn't make the connections from one precondition to the next. So it takes good attendance in order to get to good grades. It's not very good at explaining the hypothesis of why this program is going to work. The biggest downside to logical frameworks is that they're very difficult for users to read. Even the people who create them and train in them tell me over and over again that they have trouble reading a logical framework, which are usually in an Excel spreadsheet or something. The thing you want in a theory of change is that you can see very clearly, and anyone you show it to, a stakeholder or funder, will see what the connections are. So they are in the same family. Logical frameworks and theory of changes have the same goal of being a detailed explication of how a project works, but logical frameworks are, I guess, they're the previous generation and they had some shortcomings, and it depends how people do them differently. So you can make a logical framework that includes everything that has the theory of change in it and figure out how to present it graphically. And some logical frameworks don't look much more than a logic model, which is just here are the inputs, outputs, and indicators, and that's the end of the story. So it depends on the quality of the knowledge of the person doing it. But for the most part, we go into different examples of logical frameworks, logic models, and theories of change and results frames, which we do use a lot. We use theory of change to create a results frame. Explain to the students step by step what the differences are and what are the strengths and weaknesses. And then we ask them to comment. I mean, what we want to learn from them too. What are the strengths and weaknesses that you see? And is there circumstances in which one would work better for you than another? So that's a very popular elective because there's a lot of confusion about that, the terminology of different cousins of logical frameworks, theories of action. They're all supposed to be in the family of explaining how a goal will be reached. But only theory of change really lays it out. in enough detail that you can make decisions on the best interventions and know exactly what you need to evaluate. Of course, I'm a theory of change proponent, so you would expect me to say that. But I'm very passionate about the course and about people who I see learning to use theory of change in a really robust way. It's very exciting.
That was a blended explanation. Theory of change, whenever we talk, it's actually useful across different careers. Got a special place within the international development sector. Feel free to cite examples of how the course is enabling and bettering careers within the international sector.
Yes, within the international development sector, there's been a great increase in the interest of agencies, government, international development agencies, and NGOs in evaluation. And that interest in evaluation has led very naturally to a realization that these organizations need to have theories of change. So participants in the course often come to take the certification course because they want to become the evaluation or strategic planning manager in their organization, want to be able to convene and develop the theory of change for their organization. They're looking for a job move within the organization, perhaps a promotion, and to be the person who's the repository of that knowledge and trains the rest of the staff that need to be concerned. Very often people come to us because they want to move up in their role as evaluators or strategic planners in their organization. In other cases, people are coming to us to get certified for their next job. They're being interviewed for a job or they have their eye on a certain type of job. But since everybody wants theory of change now, whether they know what they want or not, people going on a job interview have to be able to say they know theory of change and they can help the organization create one for their programs. So once you've gone in on an interview and said that, if you don't really know what you just said, you take the certification course so that if they hire you, you can actually back up what you said. So we see people who are looking to change jobs move into the jobs that are available in evaluation and theory of change development, because that's probably the biggest growth sector in international development organizations, is good evaluation, good planning, and using theories of change. And it's still very understaffed in terms of people with expertise, and it's getting better and all the time. The certification really ensures that people who go out there, I mean, I could stand behind them. Somebody could call me up and say, this student who just graduated, I'm thinking of hiring her. And I would know exactly what her pathways looked like, what her understanding of the terminology was, how she facilitates. And I could speak to that person's skills to be able to do it. So the certification, I mean, we didn't develop it at all thinking about people's careers. We just wanted people to do theory of change correctly. Center, I should say, not just me. The center board wanted people to do theory of change in a robust and comprehensive manner. But I see now that we've had it for a couple of years that people are using it, as you say, to move into better jobs in their organization or to be able to sell themselves into international development organizations. So we have been seeing that.
And also, I think last time we also mentioned in the podcast, it's a very much, you can't do any projects in EU and also with the US government. I mean, you need to be, I think project needs to be within the framework of theory of change.
Yes.
And you need to have that expertise. So it's very important that you have this expertise, because that's how you will be able to be proficient or, be effectively
Absolutely.
Work within the segment.
The demand for theory of change is ubiquitous. Everybody wants it. The understanding of doing it well, because you need a complex sort of view of how people will operate in an organizational environment, is more difficult. So you have more demand than you have supply, and the certification course is increasing the supply of people who are good at it. I'm not interested in helping people just say they know something just to get the name out there.
That's so, and it's so important also in business. Yeah, everywhere. I think it's become the mantra right now. And what's so great about your course is that it's online, like we talked about, through a SaaS
totally online
model. Yeah,
you can access it from anywhere, and as I said, you can go at your own pace. but you can be in touch with your advisor, who's a senior person, at any time. And we're very responsive. Sometimes the same day. Sometimes we'll set up. They're very responsive. And there's, I've been doing it for almost 20 years, and there's a lot to learn. So even though theory of change is all common sense, I always say, actually putting common sense into practice and getting herding cats of an organization into putting everything into common sense is anything but simple. It can be very rewarding and actually a lot of fun.
And also it gives you a lot of practical exposure. You could make there's a video where you can, make your own diagrams. You can always leave it there and always come back.
Yes, you can leave it there and come back to it. You can archive the progress of the work of your organization to see how people's thinking changed. Of course, the biggest use is to develop plans and to develop results frames for evaluation. I really like to see people do their theory of change in order to decide on the best interventions to use. Most organizations already have a bunch of interventions and strategies, but once they have a theory of change, they can fine tune, are these interventions really the best ones, and when and where should we use them, so that they're not wasting money doing something too soon, or that doesn't have the preconditions in place for the community to use it. So I love to see people use their theory of change to help really make their interventions hit the outcome that they want and get the result they want.
One good aspect of your course is very applied. It's an applied learning. It mixes, the practical aspect. That's what people need. One, they could sort of connect with, you've been on the frontier of change. Directly interact with you. They can get the whole theory in it, and then there's a practical training. So, it sort of encompasses.
I'm glad you mentioned the practical part. The course from the beginning, I realized from working with people in rooms, in settings, doing trainings, unless people are doing it themselves, it's like riding a bicycle. I could explain to you how to ride a bicycle all day long, but once you get on it, you're going to fall over. Theory of change is the same way. So every module in the certification has exercises. And your exercise doesn't have to be perfect. The idea is that you submit your exercise and I can give you feedback on where it's not perfect. And as you move on through the modules, it can get better and better. But it's constant practice of every aspect of theory of change, so that people are not just learning something theoretical. This is what's been written about theory of change. No, you're going to do theory of change when you take this course.
Tell us, right now you have a university behind the certifications. Just take us through the whole process.
Well, the Center for Theory of Change has been around for a few years with a board of directors as a nonprofit. And the board of directors are from countries all over the world. So it's very international, and they bring the needs and uses of theory of change to the center, which is very helpful. Recently, just really with the beginning of 2022, Interwork Institute at San Diego State University has taken the center on as one of its centers. So the center is now housed in the Interwork Institute. And when you get a certificate from the center, you also have the backup of San Diego State University saying that we are behind this, offering this certificate. We vetted it. They also provide us with additional technical support to get new curriculum items up quickly. So it's great to have the power of the university behind the certification. We greatly appreciate that. It hasn't changed in any way how we operate as a center, but I think it gives everybody the credential of being affiliated with the university, and is very helpful as we bring theory of change into university settings.
I think that's a huge value addition. Getting endorsement from a university, and that's a amazing achievement.
Yeah, we've been working on it for a while, and we're very pleased. I had taught there a few years ago, so they knew us.
That's really good. And I think this is also a step forward for students to do, they get within the ecosystem of a university. There could be, this could be a nudge towards more courses or more certifications, which they feel could be,
Yeah, the opportunity to add curriculum and related courses is enormous when it's through the Interwork Institute, not just through the center. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunities for cross talk. we're looking forward to seeing how that works out.
You've given a very wide and very intense, or I would say like a very structured and very nuanced description of the course. The certificate course certainly helps. In thousands of people have done it. It helps organizations and employees immensely, not only within the sustainable development sector, but also among the businesses. What it is very fantastic about this course is it lays down a framework for strategic and forward thinking through an outcome driven model. And I think that's the most important thing right now. Everybody is moving into an outcome driven model. People want to be futuristic. At the same time, they want to plan both the short term and medium term with respect to the long term. So, Dr. Helene, would you like to just add anything else? I mean, I know it's a fantastic course. First endorsement from the Middle Road.
We greatly appreciate it, and I know that Middle Road itself will be taking the course. So
yeah, I've joined the course. I want to say
we'll get more feedback from you in a different role as you go through it. I would just sum up with some key points. It's self-paced. It's very personalized, and you get an advisor. It's very practical in that you're doing the actual work. You're not just learning it. And the need for people who know theory of change well is just so enormous right now. Someone gets certified, they really have a leg up to help their organization or to help their career. And so the center, all of us at the center, just want to see theory of change done properly by good, committed social change activists.
That's a fantastic. You have given very focused, very articulated overview of your course. I think it's going to add immensely anybody. I won't say that not only within international development sector, it be done by everybody. And all the businesses, government officials. I mean, this is something, if people do, they'll be by far more practical in their approach. They'll be having more within the smart framework.
Absolutely.
They'll have measurable outcomes. Thank you, Dr. Helene.
You're expressing my life's goal. So thank you.
Thanks. I've also done a podcast with Dr. Helene Clark. It was downloaded podcast on the Middle Road platform. I suggest that, it's widely available on Podbean, Spotify, iTunes, there are a lot of other platforms around the world. I suggest it's a fantastic take, the story of development of the theory of change program logic.